Hi everyone, this is Ray with the education team from Swirly Doos Kit Club, and today I'm going to share with you some ideas for using the January Mediums add-on. This month we got Lindy's for the Mediums add-on, and it was just 5 mists, and they all coordinate perfectly with the paper that came in the kit, which was the Fab Scraps Shabby-licious. So Fab Scraps picked these 5 out to match, and I was really thinking that we might not need a video this month for the mediums because it's just mists, but there's been a few questions this week about Lindy's mists and just mists in general, so I thought it was a good idea to go over some tips and tricks so that you will be inclined to use your mists. So the first part of the video is going to be about making Lindy's. These come dry. Of course, I've already used all of them, so they all have the water in there. But this is how they come. I have a bunch of Lindy's that I haven't used yet, so perfect for demonstrating this. So this is how it comes. It's just powder in there. It's just mica, whatever they have in there. And this is dry. And so what you have to do, according to the instructions, is you have to add hot water, and you let it sit for 10 minutes, and you shake before each use. So this is kind of confusing to me because I can never figure out whether or not they want you to just add the water and let it sit for 10 minutes, or to add the water and shake it and let it sit for 10 minutes before you actually spray it out of the nozzle. But this is how I do it. First, I let the water run as hot as it will go from the tap. You could use it in a microwave, but I just use tap water. It's hot enough for that. And what I do, and I have one that I've already made, is after I've let it get to the fill line, which is a little over, but I don't think that's a problem, I take my thumb and I shake, and I just shake until I don't see any more mica, and I let it sit for 10 minutes so it's kind of settled. And then the next thing that I do with the Lindy's is I take this part off to make sure I've got all of the dry mica out. So I basically just blow it. I don't care if I get that in my mouth. It's non-toxic, I think, so I think either way I'm good. So I blow all that out. And if you want to be really cautious, you can do this to see if there's any in there. And there's not. Sometimes there is. So I think it's good to go. Okay, so now that we know how to make Lindy's, I'm going to go ahead and talk about some complaints that I hear a lot about mists and maybe help you come up with some solutions so that you'll use them, or maybe you can fix the problems that you have. The first one that I always hear is that they clog, and I share that so much. I hate it when they clog. I can turn from Bob Ross to Billy Madison in like 5 seconds because I get so upset because I just want to do my stuff. I just want to make my stuff. I don't want to have to deal with pulling out this part and taking it apart and running it through the water. So I have a couple of things that work so that you don't get so clogged, especially with the Lindy's. And the first one is that I already told you, is to keep the dry mica out of that little strip in there. I think that's really important. And the other thing is that I learned this from some Tattered Angels educators, is that you need to commit to the mist. So if you're just kind of spraying, like, let me show you. Let's put down some paper towels here. So if you're just doing this, because you don't want a lot on there, you will end up clogging these, especially the Tattered Angels ones. I've seen that happen so many times. I've done that so many times. So you don't want to do that. You just want to commit to the mist. That's their little saying. And you can just keep spraying. And if you really want to control how much you're actually putting on there, if you don't want it to be that pink, go farther up. The more distance you have, the lighter it's going to be. And the more concentrated is when you have it closer. So you can saturate it then if you want to. And the other tip that I just found, and Kim, our subscriber at Swirly Doos, and my beloved friend, had suggested putting some marbles in there. So I've actually done that with all of my mists that I've been using. Every time I bust one out, I go ahead and put a couple of marbles in. I think she uses regular sized ones, but I have these ones from Michael's. They're decorative, but I'm just using them for the inside of here, and they work out really well. And if you think about it, it makes a lot of sense, because all of the things that have a lot of pigment in them like the alcohol inks, the mixatives, if you shake those, you can hear little balls in there. Kind of breaks up that pigment. And even the distress stain, like the picket fence one, you shake it, you can hear that that's in there. So it's actually a really good tip. So thank you, Kim. And as you can see on here, I have some splatter marks, and that leads me to my next thing that I always hear. It's such a common complaint that a lot of people don't like the splatter marks. Personally, I love it. I like how it looks. I embrace the unpredictability of mists most of the time. And so this looks fine to me. I don't think there's anything wrong with this, but some people would have a freak out because this is there. And if that's you, that's totally fine. If that's not how you want your projects to look, that's okay. And there's actually some solutions for that. So the first one is that if you hold your nozzle close to the project like this, whether it's paper or canvas or whatever, and you just saturate your paper, and then you can use a brayer. And eventually you'll get rid of the spots. Now this one up here, I won't get rid of because I did that before and it's dried a little bit, so it's on there at a different point in time. But I bet if I just kept spraying it and made it as saturated as that, maybe let it sit on the paper for a sec, we'll see. And then brayer. And it's going away. You could do it some more, and that would definitely disappear. So there's no splatter marks on there. It's just completely pink. There's slight variation just up here at the top, kind of right there, but it's a lot more cohesive as opposed to just spraying. So basically saturate your paper and use a brayer, and you won't have any problems. The other thing is that if you really hate the way that that looks and you don't want that sprayed look at all, there's a couple of companies, and Lindy's is actually one of them, that have dauber tops that you can buy, and you can put it on top of the mists. The Luminart Radiant Rain also has those, and so you can just do this, and you can, depending on your stroke marks that you're doing, you can make this as cohesive as you want. And you're just basically pushing in and pushing down, and you can color just like that. So it turns into basically like a distress stain. So that's awesome too. So if you hate the splatter marks, that's another way to get rid of it. And another way you can do that is, I'm just going to use the same piece of paper, but you can also pre-treat your paper, so to speak, with some water, and then you can spray. And that gets rid of it too. And now it's just all pink there. There's no marks. So if you hate splatters and you want a more cohesive look, that's how you do it. Okay, so the last complaint that I'm going to talk about is the warping. I always hear that. I hate these mists. It warps my paper. It looks like this. And it does. And there's really not a lot you can do about that. If you want to, you can take books and you can press them on overnight, like after they've dried, because I found even if you let it dry natural, which I did here, it still curls, which is going to happen. It will do the same thing if you use a heat gun. Sometimes you can get it a little less warped if you use a heat gun, sometimes more. It just depends on the quality of the paper and how much it weighs and whatever is going on there. But there is a couple of things you can do to get rid of that, and I would suggest books. But for me, that's a little irritating. If I really didn't like this like that, and this was going to be my bottom layer of my layout or my project or whatever I was doing, I would probably go ahead and put this in between a stack of 12 by 12 paper, like a lot underneath or just a lot on top, just to make it balanced. In fact, I have an iris container full of paper that I will do that with sometimes. But I actually like a lot of layers, and so if I know I'm going to miss a layer like this, I'm going to go ahead and incorporate a piece of cardstock or even a thin piece of chipboard, like the ones that you get when you order paper online. Like say you only order like 2 or 3 sheets of paper from an online store, you will get like a piece of cardboard. I think no, I'm not out of those. I'll get one of those so you can see. So something like this, it's fairly thin, or you can even just use a piece of cardstock. And what I do is after my layer is completely dry, I use liquid glue. I do not use a tape runner for this. I would not suggest doing that. It just doesn't work. And zip dry is just really perfect for this because it doesn't saturate your paper. And so I would just line this up with one edge because I know this is larger than 12 by 12. And once I have that edge lined up, I'm just going to smooth it out on that one edge, and then I'm going to take my brayer and I'm going to push it. And that's why you don't want to go all the way to the edge with your paper or with your glue. And then once you finish this, you can just cut it down to size, or you can pre-cut your chipboard if you want to. And cardstock also works really well because it's already 12 by 12. That is just one way you can do it, and then it's sitting flat. Now there is a couple of tiny bit of warps here, and like I said before, it's kind of like Mod Podge. You can just even out those bubbles, and you could actually take this and set it flat with books, and now it's going to sit flat. So I hope these ideas were helpful for you. And if you still have more questions, we will have a section of the forums that will be open for All About Myths. So if you have any questions, and of course if you have tips, we love tips, go ahead and post those. So I'll have a link on the blog to where you can find that. So thank you for watching, and be sure to go to our website at swirlydoos.com. Check out our forums. We have a fabulous community, and we are very dedicated to sharing tips and techniques. Thanks for watching.